Go ahead. Let us pray. We praise you, O God, for the dawn of a new day. We bless you, O God, as we come to bring these procedures before you. We ask your blessings. We ask your blessings on every decision. Every decision, Lord, that would be made throughout these proceedings. In the book of Jeremiah, we found these words that when we ask what the good way is, we would walk in the good way. And as we stand in the gap as legislators this morning, we stand for our country, which is not an easy thing, Lord God, considering all that has been going on around the world. But we pray for the strength and the unity of our legislatures, O God. We release, O God, healing in the wounds because we know they have been going through seeing that the country is where it's at. We pray for our governor, our premier, and every other legislature, every other person who has been elected in this office. We thank you for your commitment to your country. And Proverbs 7 says, for the lack of guidance, a nation falls. But victory is won through many advisors. So I pray today that as you come together, that God will open the eyes of your understanding to show you the way forward. When the way forward seems to be so difficult, God knows. God knows what needs to be done, and He would show you. God knows where the finances are coming from, and He would show you. So, as I release you in the hands of our good Lord who has been keeping our nations for all of these years, I pray blessings upon you. I pray peace. And I pray that everything would be done in decency and in order. In the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. The second sitting of the third session of the Fourth House Assembly has now commenced. I call upon the clerk.
Item number 2, confirmation of minutes.
Honorable members, the question before the House is for the confirmation of minutes as circulated for the meeting of Thursday, 5th November, 2020. Hearing no dissenting voice, the minutes of the meeting of Thursday, 5th November, 2020 is hereby confirmed. I call upon the clerk.
Item number 3, announcements by the Speaker.
A pleasant good morning and welcome to the second sitting of the third session of the Fourth House of Assembly. To those who are tuning in via various media and online platforms, we're happy again to have you. A warm welcome to our guests, and let me mention a few names. We welcome the Deputy Governor David D. Archer and Mrs. Archer. Our First Lady, Mrs. Sheila Forbes Foy, we're happy to have you. Other spouses in the gallery, Financial Secretary and staff, Cabinet Secretary, Permanent Secretaries, former Premier and former First Lady, Dr. Deolanda Smith and Mrs. Smith, heads of departments, Commissioner of Police, other current and former civil servants, captains of statutory bodies, banks, CEO and managers, insurance companies, CEOs, others from the private sector, staff of the House of Assembly, the 2 members of the Virgin Islands Youth Parliament present, and all others invited. We are delighted to have you. Today is another special day in the life of the 4th House of Assembly. It's Budget Day, where the elected Minister of Finance will lay out his financial priorities. It was in 1978 when the territory of the Virgin Islands received our first Minister of Finance from among elected members in the person of the late Chief Minister, Dr. Willard Whitley, whose grandson sits in the chamber today as the Deputy Premier. Over the past 42 years in our young democracy, we have had 7 Ministers of Finance, spanning from the late Chief Ministers Dr. Willard Whitley, H. Lavity Stout, and Cyril B. Romney. Additionally, we've had the late Chief Minister and Premier Ralph T. O'Neill, former Deputy Chief Minister Ronnie W. Skelton, and former Chief Minister and Premier Dr. D. Orlando Smith. And today, we have Premier Honorable Andrew A. Foy. In my humble view, it speaks volumes that after 42 years of managing our finances, our leaders have kept the country stable. Today, November 12, 2020, will mark the 3rd budget address for the current Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Andrew A. Foy. Before the budget address, the Premier will move a motion for the first and second readings of the bill entitled the Appropriation Act 2021. Following his address, another motion will be moved for the bill to be referred to a committee of all members called the Standing Finance Committee. During the Standing Finance Committee meeting stage, government departments and statutory bodies, especially those seeking funding, will come before all honorable members to make presentation about their financial needs and challenges, and in turn, honorable members will seek answers to questions. Once the Standing Finance Committee process is completed, a report will be prepared. Following that, honorable members in the well of the chambers will debate the merits and principles of the Appropriation Act. The legislature then resolves itself into a committee of the whole House to examine the estimates. With the completion of that phase, it paves the way for the passage of the territory's 2021 budget. And finally, during the budget presentation this morning, I will allow both members and persons in the gallery to express themselves via clapping or members tapping their desk. I now call on the Premier and Minister of Finance to move a first motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I do move the first motion, I crave your indulgence. And that I always take time to pay due respect, as you have rightfully said, not only the ministers of finance, but all the premiers and chief ministers before us. And today I do take this time to first pay respect to the Honorable Dr. D. Orlando Smith, the immediate past premier who's in the room, and Mrs. Smith. So we thank them for their service. But I really stand, Mr. Speaker, also to, in addition, to say that yesterday was 1 year that the late premier, or first premier, and our chief minister, 9th district representative, minister of finance, Honorable Ralph T. O'Neill, departed this life. So, Mr. Speaker, I crave your indulgence to have the House to rise in a moment of silence to honor the legacy of the late Ralph T. O'Neill, who yesterday would have been 1 year that he left us and went to sleep until that resurrection morning. So, Mr. Speaker, with your kind permission. Amen. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Mr. Speaker, I rise as Minister of Finance to move the following motion. Whereas Standing Order 11 of the House of Assembly, Standing Orders, outlines for each sitting the order of business of the House of Assembly unless the Speaker, after consultation with the leader of government business otherwise directs. Now therefore be it resolved that this Honorable House directs that the business of the order of the day as outlined in Standing Order 11 be for the purposes of this second sitting of the third session of the Fourth House of Assembly varied to allow for item 4 statements by ministers to be taken immediately after 7:14 on the order of the day.
Second motion.
Honorable members, a motion has been moved and seconded to allow item 4, statements by ministers, to be taken immediately after item 7.1, Roman numeral 5 on the order of the day. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Senior member from the 3rd District, were you seeking to make an intervention? Okay. Thank you. I call upon the clerk.
Item number 5, presentation of papers.
I call upon the Honorable Premier and Minister of Finance to lay his documents on the table.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in terms of the presentation of papers, I think there'll be Minister of Finance is just a little typo there with the budget paper, but it's the Minister of Finance. It was done as the Minister of Health. You'll get here one of these days. Mr. Speaker, I rise to lay on the table the following documents: statutory instrument 2020 number 125, a proclamation by His Excellency the Governor under Section 83(1) of the Virgin Islands Constitutional Order 2007 UKSI 2007 number 1678, appointing the time and place at which the second sitting of the third session of the Fourth House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands shall be laid. And, Mr. Speaker, I also laid the Government of the Virgin Islands Medium-Term Fiscal Plan 2021 and 2023.
Upon the clerk.
Item number 6, notices of motions given orally.
I call upon the Honorable Premier and Minister of Finance to give notice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give notice that at a later stage in the proceedings, I will seek leave to move the motion standing in my name under item 7.1, Roman numeral 1 through Roman numeral 7 on the order of the day.
Thank you. I call upon the clerk.
Item number 7, public business. 1, government business.
I call upon the Premier and Leader of Government's business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move a motion for the introduction of the first reading of the bill entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020. I move that leave be granted to introduce the following bill standing in my name shortly, entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that leave to introduce the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 be granted. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I introduce the bill standing in my name shortly entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020, and I will explain its provision at the second reading. Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 be now read a first time.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 be now read a first time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Therefore, I call upon the clerk to read the bill for the first time.
This act may be cited as the Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 and shall be deemed to have come into force on the first day of January 2021.
Thank you. I call upon the Premier and Leader of Government's business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move a motion for the suspension of the Standing Order 52, subsection 2 to allow for the second reading of the bill entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020. Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that Standing Order number 52, subsection 2 be suspended to allow for the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 to be read a second time.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that Standing Order number 52-2 be suspended to allow the bill entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 to be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. The motion is passed. I call upon the Premier and Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move a motion for the second reading of the bill entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 and to deliver the budget address. Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 be read a second time, and I also seek leave to give the budget address.
And persons in the gallery, the pleasure is mine to invite the Premier and Minister of Finance and Member for the 1st District, the Honorable Andrew A. Foy, to deliver the budget address.
Mr. Speaker, a pleasant good day and God's blessings be upon all honorable members of this honorable House and all the people of these beautiful Virgin Islands, those here in the gallery, those listening via the radio, and those viewing online, both at home and abroad. And we continue to move forward as we continue to move forward in this new regular of living and working with COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, this speech is always known as a budget address. But Mr. Speaker, being an unconventional government, I declare that this is a budget statement. I count it an honor and a privilege to rise to for the third time in less than 2 years to present a national budget for the Virgin Islands. Having Budget Day at this time is a testimony of government confidence in being committed and accountable to its people in spite of the global challenges. For us in the British Virgin Islands, this is a testament that the health and safety protocols we have been putting in place to keep people safe and to protect the territory amid COVID-19 has afforded us such opportunities to forge ahead as we continue to reopen our economy. COVID-19 has not crippled us. Your government has been working assiduously throughout the pandemic to ensure that the people's business is done and their critical needs are taken care of. And the BVI today, Budget Day, is the Accountability Day. The theme of this budget is innovation. Building a stable, diverse, competitive economy with strong industries and partnerships for regional and international trade by building and harnessing the creative capacity of our human capital, innovation. Simply put, this budget is about our competitive economy and our partnership and the building and the advancement of our people. Mr. Speaker, these are unique times, but what we are experiencing is not unique to us in the Virgin Islands. Within the last 10 months, the entire global landscape has changed. Reflecting in 1946 on the advent of nuclear weapons, Albert Einstein said, and I quote, "Everything has changed. A new type of thinking is essential if mankind is to survive and move toward higher levels." End of quote. With COVID-19, everything has changed, and we have to rethink and reinvent creative ways of doing things, of engaging in economic activity through innovation. Large and small nations and economies have been thrown into uncertainty and turmoil by the sudden emergence of COVID-19, a disease for which there's yet no known cure or vaccine, and which has disrupted the usual functioning of almost every facet of our lives. This unforeseen and unprecedented threat is forcing everyone everywhere to try to find ways to conduct regular and necessary business while balancing the risk of illness and death of persons and the health of the economy. We have to critically reassess business models that have worked successfully for decades before the emergence of COVID-19, but which metrics are incompatible with the present-day realities. What may have worked in the past does not necessarily hold for the future. Given that COVID-19 is an invisible threat, the challenge of the new regular is to strike the ideal balance between lives and livelihoods. Our experience in the Virgin Islands, and indeed as we have seen everywhere else in the world, is that it is not easy to balance the protecting of livelihoods with protecting lives. Both come with a high cost. However, one outweighs the other. Once you are alive, you can always make money. But if you're dead, you have no life and you cannot make money. And the further paradox is, you cannot have a livelihood without life. In the words of the President-elect of the United States, Joe Biden, and I quote, "You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis." End of quote. And until COVID-19 is fixed, in the Virgin Islands, we must therefore envision and reposition ourselves in a world where COVID-19 and similar threats are the new regular and where lives take priority. And we have seen the reality is that this is a world where a lot will not be perfect and not everything will be to our convenience. We have been able to contain the virus from spreading in the Virgin Islands to a great extent. But we are not out of the woods as yet. So this is why your government continues to emphasize caution. Before assuming office roughly 20 months ago, my administration, your government, recognized that there existed a real threat to our territory's resilience and the human security of our people. These were particularly exposed by the catastrophic disasters of 2017, back-to-back Category 5 hurricanes Irma and Maria, which left many of our people without work, without secure homes, with businesses on the brink of closure and foreclosure, with our children displaced from proper learning environments, and with one of the territory's economic engines, tourism, severely battered. The past year, we have seen how external threats have emerged, endangering our financial services industry. The reality is that these attacks are slowly chipping away at the features that give our offerings competitive advantage. And the price for these actions is the loss of jobs for Virgin Islanders, loss of business, and loss of revenue to the territory. And those whom we expected to protect us from this barrage have not done so. Recognizing the vulnerabilities this situation posed, your government immediately set to work to strengthen the resilience of our people and our territory. We cast a national vision to transform the Virgin Islands into a leading regional economy through innovation, entrepreneurship, and local and foreign investment by 2025 as a strategy for achieving this. And yes, COVID-19 has caused some setbacks, but our vision remains, as does our resolve. We have to keep pushing forward. We must develop the capacity of the BVI to be resilient against shocks, whether they are from hurricanes, pandemics, changes in international policy and international politics, or any other influences. And we must develop our capacity and boost our own productivity. We must minimize the impact catastrophic events have on our people and our territory by toughening up our people, our economy, and our institutions so that they are not rendered helpless while waiting for external help that is not guaranteed to come on time or at all, or while walking towards recovery. These have been some of our goals as your government over the past 20 months, and more so over the last 10 months as we battle the many threats and complications of the COVID-19 global pandemic. And may I say that COVID-19 has revealed that these kinds of threats are real and has forced us to accept that we have to confront them largely on our own. But our response and the results of our response has proven that we often underestimate ourselves as others want us to. Our targets have been founded on the demonstrated ability of generations of Virgin Islanders to rise above adversity and negative stereotypes and to innovate and persevere, to create a leading international finance center that is the envy of many and one of the most lucrative and attractive tourism industry in the hemisphere. So many times and in so many different ways, we have been told that our BVI is no more than a bird sanctuary. But the reality is, despite the odds, as a Virgin Islands people, we not only survived, but we continue to thrive. These are qualities imprinted in our DNA. This is a solemn responsibility of all Virgin Islands government, as written in the Virgin Islands Constitution Order 2007, to ensure that Virgin Islanders are able to pursue their quest for social justice, economic empowerment, and political advancement. And this can only be achieved when our people are enabled to stand on their own 2 feet, socially, economically, and politically. This was the philosophy behind many of the policy decisions that we have taken as a government over the last 20 months. And it will remain at the core of our decision-making well into the future. Simply put, we believe in the advancement of our people. This philosophy of empowerment, resilience, and removing the threats to the human security of our people was the foundation of the 2020 budget, which was tabled in and passed by the House of Assembly approximately 1 year ago. It was against this backdrop and the promising strides made in the 9 months before to reinvigorate our tourism industry, and in particular the cruise tourism subsector, which was poised to return to near pre-Irma visitor levels, that the 2020 budget was planned. But as our faith teaches us in Proverbs 16:9, and I quote, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." End of quote. And therefore, our well-made plans had to be adjusted a number of times in light of the forces that are beyond us and our control, mainly COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, sir, it goes without saying that the COVID-19 global pandemic disrupted and depressed business activity. Revenues shrunk. At the same time, priorities had to be reorganized and funding reassigned to more critical needs. Contraction of global tourism, coupled with the decisive precautionary measures implemented to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus in this territory, resulting in an obvious decline in tourism-related business activity and knock-on impacts on other areas. The draft estimates show total government revenue in 2020 was $340 million, $22 million less than initially projected and 6.65% lower than 2019 actual revenue. Compared to 2019 and based on estimates for 2020, tourist arrival levy fell by $1.8 million. Passenger tax increased by $1.1 million. But revenue from cruising permits fell by $3.3 million. And hotel accommodation tax proceeds fell by $420,000 or 16.02%. Taxes on goods and services declined by $48.7 million or 16.87% when compared to 2019. And income and payroll tax revenue dropped by $7.49 million due to the disruption in economic activity by COVID-19. These figures are not surprising, Mr. Speaker, because we are aware of how much our economy is based directly and indirectly on tourist arrivals. What these numbers are telling us is that we need to move with haste to diversify our economy and build our economic resilience. We need to adjust and adapt. Similarly, the trend in corporate registrations over the last few years continued. Revenue from registrations in 2020 was $168.9 million, $26.5 million less than initially projected, and $29.8 million or 15% lower than 2019. In fairness to the hard-working professionals in our financial services sector, economies and investments around the world have been hit by economic fallout and uncertainty since the start of the COVID-19 global pandemic. This industry has been constantly bombarded with threats associated with blacklisting, publicly accessible registers of beneficial ownership by 2023, the Brexit deal or no deal, and other direct and indirect activities. The industry professionals have also been working to find innovative ways to make the BVI financial services more attractive and competitive. But we cannot expect these efforts to bear fruit overnight, nor under the current uncertain global economic climate. Nonetheless, the writing is on the wall. We need to diversify the economy and develop other economic engines to reduce our vulnerability to disruptions. Recurrent expenditure for fiscal 2020, according to the estimates, totaled $366.5 million, representing a 12% increase over the budgeted figure and a 19% increase over the 2019 total. This sum includes $57.4 million in COVID-19 prevention expenses that were not initially budgeted for, since this coronavirus had not even been heard of at the time. Assistance to meet this unanticipated expenditure was derived from a $40 million grant from the BVI Social Security Board, for which we remain eternally grateful for this assistance to our people. Your government's COVID-19 strategy was not restricted to containment of the virus and treatment of infected persons. The strategy also included social considerations such as ensuring that persons had suitable housing given the devastations from Hurricanes Irma and Maria in 2017 and the need to provide economic stimulus to local businesses and making investments in job creation and food security. To this end, coronavirus prevention expenses include $2 million to cover food production grants in agriculture and fisheries, $6.5 million in grants to local businesses affected by COVID-19, $1 million in stimulus grants to hotels and villas participating in government's COVID-19 quarantine program, $9 million for housing repairs, materials, labor, and reconstruction assistance to watertight homes damaged by the 2017 catastrophic hurricanes. $1 million to develop an insurance initiative to be undertaken by the BVI Social Security Board. $1 million for other social needs related to COVID-19. $1 million to offer support for daycare, private schools, churches, and other religious organizations. $1 million to fund a transportation initiative for the city of Roetown and from Terrence B. Lettsome International Airport to approve quarantine areas in Tortola. This initiative also includes our sister islands. $7.5 million in support to the National Health Insurance Program. $3.9 million to provide assistance grants to individuals administered by elected representatives who each were allocated $300,000 to assist their communities. $2.8 million for the house-to-house garbage collection and food distribution programs. $2.99 million for contingency funding to the Ministry of Health for precautionary measures relating to COVID-19. $4 million for accommodations for returning residents. $8.6 million are allocated to the Ministry of Health and Social Development, which includes a grant of $8.1 million to the BVI Health Services Authority for precautionary measures relating to COVID-19, and $4 million for infrastructure works related to the managing of the National Sewage Distribution System. Mr. Speaker, the accounts show that your government did its best to support our public officers during this ongoing era of COVID-19. Sacrifices were made to ensure that government workers were able to keep their jobs and have an income to care for their families. In a vast instance, public officers work from their homes, fulfilling many administrative tasks to keep government services running smoothly for the rest of our residents. And for this, I thank all public officers for their commitment and dedication. Innovative and remote working saw small increases in expenditure on mobile communications. Spending on computer software increased by 81.3%, or about $1.2 million more than similar spending in 2019. One benefit from this is that it has pushed the public service forward in the adoption and greater use of technology, which is a change that we intend to sustain as far as practicable. At the same time, the suspension of travel for public officers due to the pandemic resulted in significant savings in costs associated with foreign travel. These funds, along with managed cuts in most expenditure heads, allowed your government to redirect funds to priority areas and treat with emergent needs. The Ministry of Finance is projecting a small but tenuous balance on overall operations in 2020. Central government debt stands at $149.11 million. The numbers show prudent fiscal management because the situation could easily have turned much worse had your government not taken the tough decisions to minimize the level and spread of COVID-19 infections in the territory. Notwithstanding this, the BVI's economy remains intact and full of promise. The most recent cash flow report from the Ministry of Finance projects that the consolidated fund balance at Friday, 13th November 2020, will be $41.6 million, taking into consideration anticipated inflows and outflows. The accounts payable balance as at 13 November 2020 is projected to be nil. Government's total debt is in the vicinity of $149 million, of which $97 million is foreign debt and $52 million is local debt. the operating line of credit remains paid in full. Total cash and investments are reported to be $208.3 million as at 6 November 2020. Mr. Speaker, numbers in a vacuum by themselves do not give an accurate picture of what has happened. Numbers need context. Mr. Speaker, we live in a globalized world, and our two main economic drivers, tourism and financial services, depend on what is happening in other countries and other economies. So, Mr. Speaker, let me take a snapshot of the global situation. The World Bank, in its June 2020 Global Economic Prospects Report, notes, and I quote, "The COVID-19 pandemic has, with alarming speed, delivered a global economic shock of enormous magnitude, leading to steep recessions in many countries. The baseline forecast envisions a 5.2% contraction in global GDP in 2020, the deepest global recession in 8 decades, despite unprecedented policy support," end of quote. It states that the cross-border spillovers have disrupted financial and commodity markets, global trade, supply chains, travel, and tourism, and financial markets have been extremely volatile. Shrink by 7% as widespread social distancing measures, a sharp tightening of financial conditions, and a collapse in external demand depress activity. Millions of persons are likely to be thrown back into poverty. Close to 90 million individuals may fall below the $1.90 a day income threshold of extreme deprivation this year, according to the International Monetary Fund, IMF, in its October 2020 World Economic Outlook report. The United Nations World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, reported on 27 October 2020 that international arrivals for the first 8 months of 2020 fell by 70%. This is across all markets worldwide. July and August 2020, the peak Northern Hemisphere summer seasons, saw decreases of 81% and 79% respectively compared to the same period in 2019. The drop until August 2020 represents 700 million fewer arrivals compared to the same period in 2019 and translates into a loss of US $730 billion in export revenues from international tourism. This is more than 8 times the loss experienced on the back of the 2019 global economic and financial crisis. The United Nations World Tourism Organization noted that some countries were able to slow their declines by reopening their borders, but any recovery was short-lived as travel restrictions and advisories were reintroduced amid an increase in infections of COVID-19, and demand for travel remains largely subdued due to the ongoing uncertainty about the pandemic and low confidence. The United Nations World Tourism Organization panel of experts foresee a rebound in international tourism in 2021, mostly in the third quarter of 2021. However, around 20% of experts suggest the rebound could occur only in 2022. The IMF is projecting global economic growth of 5.2% in near-term 2021. But this is heavily dependent on countries being able to maintain their management and control of the spread of COVID-19 and not having to roll back into lockdowns and similar measures. This is a global outlook at this time that gives of context of this budget and the decisions that we must make from time to time. It clearly shows how our little but great territory is performing in the COVID-19 era when compared to the rest of the world. Thus, Mr. Speaker, you can see that many of the challenges and frustrations that we are experiencing in the Virgin Islands are not unique to us. Our experiences are no different to those of governments, countries, industries, and people around the world. Adding to the context of the 2020 expenditures, when the 2020 budget was formulated and presented, the world had not even dreamt of COVID-19, far less to imagine the wide and deep impact it would have across economies across the globe. I've already indicated what the cost of responding to COVID-19 threats has been to the coffers of the territory. This does not reflect the financial losses and emotional toll of COVID-19 that it has had on individual citizens. It also does not help us to visualize and contrast where we ought to be in terms of our economic, infrastructural, and social development had COVID-19 not come about. Yet still, Mr. Speaker, your government has no regrets for the decisive and timely action that we took to protect the lives of our people and to save our economy from deep, catastrophic long-term damage due to COVID-19. With COVID-19 being declared a global pandemic by the World Health Organization, WHO, on 11 March 2020, your government immediately began the process of putting preventative measures in place to keep us all safe. Through the Public Health Act 1977, the Quarantine Act 2014, and the Infectious Disease Notification Act, we instituted a number of control measures which our people cooperated largely with. This allows us the time to install the infrastructure and systems that we would need to allow us to function and increase functionality while living and working with COVID-19 in the new regular. In the meantime, we implemented measures to assist our people with food and other essential supplies and services. We commenced remote working. We promptly set about the formation and management of the Health Emergency Operations Center, HEOC, for the COVID-19 global pandemic. A COVID-19 economic task force was convened to evaluate the potential impacts of COVID-19 on the BVI economy, inclusive of social impacts, and to make recommendations on how to deal with the possible scenarios. All professionals in the airport industry, ports, immigration, customs, and health also began drafting protocols for operations under various scenarios based on the possible ways that the COVID-19 threat could evolve. They did this while constantly monitoring international developments and tapping into their associations with international bodies. Cabinet met regularly and held consultations to gather and process information and to make decisions that will help us to navigate these uncharted waters. We commissioned a certified COVID-19 testing lab, developed protocols for safe movement and conduct of business, and implemented monitoring systems. We also upgraded the capacity of our healthcare facilities. There have been minor hiccups and some false alarm scares along the way. But the above measures and more are what have kept our people safe from COVID-19 and prevented the loss of their lives, except one. These are also the measures that have facilitated us being able to prepare for the impending reopening of the BVI's tourism industry on 1st December 2020, with maritime arrivals being possible from 8 December 2020. But, Mr. Speaker, lest the impression be formed that the only thing your government did over the past year was to manage the territory's COVID-19 situation, it is necessary for me to point out some of the other areas that held our attention and where successes were made. It is important to note that while some projects were accelerated to treat with issues from the pandemic, they were developed and executed to have a more comprehensive impact. We procured laptops for school children. We hosted a number of virtual events such as the first virtual Emancipation Festival and virtual graduation ceremonies. We organized the first Tourism and Culture Month, first School Arts Festival, and first Poet Laureate program. We distributed scholarships, conducted training in the Marine program and Solar program, and revitalized the tourism program. We also repaired a number of recreational facilities. During the past year, and counting in this, and going to continue and counting in to this 2021 budget estimates, your government continued to work towards the improvement of collection and revenue intake through the ongoing implementation of more efficient measures in terms of modern systems for internal revenue management. This would mitigate the leakage of millions of dollars that have been going uncollected for many years due to the limitation of the existing apparatus. This is innovation. Mr. Speaker, your government continues to have high on its agenda getting the audited financial statements current. This is a constitutional violation that your government met upon entering office, and we are moving aggressively to have it addressed. Your government has not done a lot in the past year. Your government has done a lot, in the past year. Has done a lot in the past year to settle prior outstanding bills due to companies, vendors, and individuals. This is another situation we inherited. In their frustration, a few persons were contemplating taking the government to court to recover that which was rightfully and justly theirs all along. And so your government devoted efforts to a proactive approach to resolving as many of these issues as we could. To support a robust immigration and labor system, your government in the last year worked on deployment of a new border management system, continued work on work permit online system, and introduced financial services expedited work permit processing. This is innovation. We completed the Environment and Climate Change Green Paper and Bill, which has been referred to the Attorney General's chambers for vetting. We achieved completion of the Marine Estate and Coastal Zone Management Bill with the approval of the updated Marine Estate Policy, and we approved the Beach Use Policy. Through collaboration with various entities, we started replanting mangroves at Seacoast Bay, Virgin Gorda, and French Muskie. A big victory for protection of our natural environment in the passage of the Trade in Endangered Species CITES Act 2019, which is over 30 years old and which will allow authorities to have greater control over the plants and animals entering and leaving the territory and protect endangered species. Your government also completed the necessary processes for the Blunder Bay lease. These are some of the things we did while managing the very fluid and challenging health, social, and economic situation created by COVID-19. The Ministry of Health was at the forefront of COVID-19 pandemic containment effort, multitasked to keep several achievements on track, such as the accreditation of the BVI Health Services Authority by accrediting the Dr. D. Orlando Hospital, by the accrediting body DNVGL, Det Norske Veritas, Norway, and Germany Shaw Lloyd, Germany. DNVGL accredits over 635 hospitals in the United States of America and 15 hospitals across Brazil, China, Iceland, Slovenia, Czech Republic, and Thailand. The BVI Health Services Authority, which manages the Dr. D. Orlando Smith Hospital, is one of only 3 public health systems in the region that has achieved internationally accredited status. What this means for the BVI is that we are pursuing a commitment to excellence in healthcare that will help us to build more confidence among our population, attract more patients, enhance and promote safe and high quality care for the people of these beautiful British Virgin Islands. By achieving this distinction, the BVI Health Services Authority has demonstrated its ability and commitment to providing health care that has been evaluated against global standards. This achievement also allows us to pursue medical tourism even more vigorously. The Ministry of Health has successfully brought forward the Medical Act 2020, the Nurses and Midwives Act 2020, the Red Cross Act 2020, and opened the Nurse Iris O'Neill Medical Complex and Virgin Gorda. Mr. Speaker, in order to have a capital that is worthy of a luxury tourist destination, the Ministry of Transportation, Works and Utilities has embarked on upgrades on the infrastructure in Road Town. It involves aesthetic improvements, such as the beautification of the main areas in the town and the planting and majestic royal palm trees to line the main motorways. The ministry is also focusing on building better city management to improve the experience of living and working in as well as visiting the town. These include reducing traffic congestion and creating a pedestrian-friendly environment. The ministry used the initial COVID-19 curfew period to implement the rerouting of traffic flow and to put measures in place for the City of Road Town Park and Ride system, which has been tested. This is innovation. We intend to complete the full implementation of this public transport option in the capital. The soil has been turned to begin the upgrade of the Market Square, which will provide a more appealing space for vendors and customers to trade. This project is expected to be completed by the end of the third quarter of 2021. We have also provided a vehicle for hope and empowerment to the residents of Huntom's Gut and the 5th District by taking the first steps to implement an entrepreneurship incubator program. Facilities for an economic zone are being constructed which would house the first step program for entrepreneurs to give budding entrepreneurs who have solid, workable business plans the support for their businesses to get off the ground and grow. We have also done considerable work to prepare the rebuilding of the Palm Grove Shopping Center in Road Town. During this COVID-19 era, the Ministry of Transportation, Works and Utilities procured a mobile asphalt plant to increase the efficiency of road repairs and to lower the cost of road repairs to taxpayers. These are just some of the things that your government have been working on during the past year. As I've indicated, your government remains committed to the transformation of the BVI into a leading regional economy, to building a stable, diverse, and competitive economy through trade, industries, and the people of the Virgin Islands. The budgetary allocations, as well as your government's legislative agenda outlined in the speech from the throne on Thursday, 5th November 2020, are aligned with achieving this vision. Your government is fully aware that while we work towards the long-term security and well-being of our people, we must make sure that their critical needs are being met. They must be able to live with peace, with a peace of mind that they will have a roof over their head, food for their family, and that they will be safe, while the investments we make today are maturing. This is why the theme of this budget is innovation. Building a stable, diverse, competitive economy with strong industries and partnerships for regional and international trade by building and harnessing the creative capacity of our human capital. A stable economy is one that is not easily shaken even when major threats emerge. Threats such as a hurricane, a pandemic, or changes to international financial regulations. This is an economy that does not have most of its eggs in just one or two baskets, especially baskets that are susceptible to disruption from shocks. Therefore, as we have been saying for far too long, we need to develop a diverse economic base. We must foster new businesses and new industries that are not easily vulnerable to known threats. Businesses that can stay viable during tough unforeseen and even unprecedented times in a global operating environment where there are many other players and where consumers have choices. The Virgin Islands must be able to compete and to remain competitive. This requires having industries that are able to offer strong value proposals and which are easily accessible to clients. It requires having the infrastructure and amenities that will make the BVI the best place to do business, which will facilitate our businesses being able to function efficiently without unnecessary disruptions and handicaps, and which will allow our people to develop and flourish. Your government has identified a number of development projects that will complement and enhance our existing smart strategies, support innovation, and create opportunities for the people of the territory. It goes without saying, but I must remind all that the revenues in the budget is based on estimates and projections made by the technocrats working in and with the Ministry of Finance. This is not necessarily money that is in our hands, but it is funds that are anticipated based on forecasts of how the operating environment will behave, and once we all do our respective parts to keep the territory moving in a progressive direction. And this includes ensuring that we manage and contain COVID-19, because a key factor in being able to have successful economic activity is that we must have a safe environment. And we must not forget that we are not out of the woods as yet with COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, the full list of projects and allocations can be found in the estimates of expenditure, but permit me to highlight some of the priority projects for the upcoming year. For government to function effectively, there must be comfortable, convenient facilities for staff to work and for members of the public to access government services. Your government will continue to the rehabilitation of the Ralph T. O'Neill Central Administration Complex, CAC. A critical aspect of this project is to ensure the indoor air quality at the facility in addition to making it an overall comfortable and functional facility for workers and visitors alike. Repairs to government-owned satellite offices will complement efforts to make services more accessible to residents of outer-line communities and to enhance the work environment of various public offices and to ensure increased services offered. Rehabilitative works to various public offices throughout the territory, not identified elsewhere, will be undertaken. Mr. Speaker, a reliable and efficient justice system and public safety inspires stability and confidence. Therefore, your government remains committed to pursuing the construction of the halls of justice and repairing the police stations at Anegada and Rotown and conducting rehabilitative works to the police marine base. It is important that there are adequate facilities for all facets and functions of the police force and to enhance the level of service offered. As such, we will move ahead with the construction of a new facility to house the police headquarters and Rotown Station. This will provide a more resilient facility with all the necessary modern amenities required. Your government wants to ensure that there is an adequate working environment for customs officers at various locations and to ensure safe access to the public to all customs facilities. Thus, we will complete ongoing outfittings works to customs headquarters and other related facilities. This will help to improve the efficiency of Her Majesty's Customs and enhance the experience of clients, especially those who depend on these services for trade. Mr. Speaker, we are well aware of our exposure due to our geographic location when it comes to the threat of hurricanes and similar disasters. The Department of Disaster Management, DDM, has been a guardian angel to the territory during these times. Seasons after season, they help to keep us safe, as they did during Hurricane Irma. It is clear that the DDM and the National Emergency Operations Center is in need of a more fit-for-purpose and resilient accommodation. And therefore, your government intends to commence work on a new building to house these 2 units. To increase the responsiveness of all emergency and disaster personnel, we will continue to work on developing a fully interoperable and resilient VHF network for security, DDM, and emergency services. We also aim to replace early warning and monitoring equipment throughout the territory. In the case of equipment that was damaged or in need of replacement. Renovation works will also continue at the Rotong Fire Station so that the fire department will have an adequate environment to enhance their response to emergencies. These measures will increase our resilience against natural disasters such as hurricanes, as it will allow our people to be better prepared when these events occur. A modern, performance-driven government must optimize the use of available technology. This is innovation. This will increase the efficiency of the delivery of services to the public, make data collection, processing, management, and analysis easier for our public officers, and provide much desired convenience to our clients, especially the residents of the Sister Islands. Sister Islands residents should not have to travel to Tortola to access government services, not in the 21st century. COVID-19 has forced many of us to confront our apprehensions about using the internet technology to get work done. Over the past 8 months, we have been confidently and effectively using the internet technology for meetings, conferences, schooling, and all kinds of other interactions and processes. There's no need to hold ourselves back. As a matter of fact, you will agree with me when I say most of us are all zoomed out. But this is a good thing. Therefore, the transition into e-government will be accelerated so that we can enhance the services available online. E-billing, online payment, and online bookings. This is innovation. Legislation to facilitate aspects of e-government that will contribute to efficiency and generation of income was tabled in the House of Assembly for first reading earlier in this year. However, the legislation was delayed by COVID-19. This delay was not in vain because we have been able to further study the framework and have found ways that can add further strength to the legislation. Just last week, the legislation already received its first reading. 2 benefits of introducing modern computer technology is that it will help to capture sources of leakage in tax collection, and it will speed up the process of issuing good standing certificates. This is innovation. Our understanding is that many people want to pay their taxes and other obligations, but the current system is unable to cope. By fixing this problem, we will be able to increase our tax revenue without imposing any new taxes. We are also reviewing the NHI system using the $1 million from the Social Security Board's grant, the $1 million US. This review will improve the efficiency of the system as well as its financial effectiveness and viability so that citizens can be better served and get more value for money. This will also ease some of the burden placed on the government's coffers, and it will help to improve the competitiveness of the public hospital and healthcare facilities. This is innovation. To illustrate your government's commitment to this task of strengthening our information and communication technology, ICT, infrastructure and services, the Department of Information Technology, DO-IT, will be transferred from the Ministry of Finance to the Premier's Office, the ministry responsible for information, communications, and technology. This will ensure that technology and communications are well aligned along with Telecommunications Regulatory Commission. The post of Director of Communications Department of Information and Public Relations, and as we set up an ad hoc information commission to improve the communications and technological structure. Negotiations with telecommunications service providers are expected to begin in 2021, and your government will be insisting that service providers commit to ensuring quality service and value for money is provided to our residents. There will be no compromise on this because reliable telecommunications, particularly internet, is essential for competitiveness in today's global business environment. Even though the internet is the most popular medium for exchanging written communication, there's still a need for the use of hard copy letters and documents and parcels. In this regard, your government will seek to undertake the rehabilitation and development of the various postal offices throughout the territory. This includes the restoration and replacement of mailboxes to ensure continued delivery and receipt of mail by providing more resilient structures and to enhance the economic development of the territory by ensuring the timely access to mails. As the world economy transitions to operating amidst a global health pandemic, financial services globally continues to be transformed by the demands of sustainability and technology developments. BVI Financial Services continue to be innovative and to this end embraces the corporate entity needs of sustainable finance. Environmental, social, and governance, ESG matters, are the common language of sustainable finance. And the BVI, as a premier financial center, continues to explore and provide opportunities for corporate entities that wish to showcase and highlight their sustainable business model. The introduction of ESG-focused BVI corporate registers will add to the ecosystem and assist the BVI in building more strategic solutions that serve the larger number of established and growing BVI business companies and partnerships. These developments will better position the territory and enhance the competitiveness of BVI Financial Services. The introduction this year of the territory's financial regulatory sandbox has offered a welcome mat to those companies and entrepreneurs that are eager to use BVI products and our well-regarded financial services environment to support their foray into emerging technologies and services. This enhanced landscape will be of benefit to both locally and internationally based startups and entrepreneurs who are seeking to explore the fintech area. Additionally, these services will benefit the local economy and expand digital adoption and the availability of digitally native services. Much effort is currently going into studying and exploring the development and possible introduction of cutting-edge corporate structures designed to appeal to start-up and disruptors, and which offer alignment with the global trend of deregulation. The existence of the regulatory sandbox, new suite of electronic transition supporting legislation, and the new suite of electronic transaction supporting legislation and other developments in the area of financial services will serve as advantages and attract virtual asset service providers, those in the business of digital asset custody and related services that are a part of the virtual asset ecosystem. This is innovation. As the sectors and developments in financial services converge, we see the interconnectivity of sustainability and resilience needs combined in digital assets, distributed ledger technology, and digital finance platforms. As our traditional sources of revenue are being challenged by the pandemic and other factors, we must look to innovation in our key sectors and to non-traditional sources of revenue and leadership. The Virgin Islands is no stranger to extreme climate events, and we have no option but to confront climate change. The reality is that the social and economic viability of these islands, and indeed of countries throughout the world, will depend on low-carbon, climate-resilient development. The increase in global reallocation of capital, research, and other resources in the transition to a net zero carbon economy is creating unprecedented opportunities to position the territory as a climate change innovation and finance center of excellence, and we must harness them. BVI is posed to continue to embrace change and to respond to innovation and to expand our leadership in these areas and to continue to drive increasing revenues from these emerging areas which are already integral parts of our financial services landscape. Mr. Speaker, a top competitive tourism destination must have appropriate infrastructure in place to facilitate visitor arrivals and to make our guests comfortable when they visit our attractions. With the passage of the 2017 hurricanes, there's need to renovate and upgrade all tourist-based sites throughout the territory in an effort to enhance the experience for tourists and residents and provide additional opportunities for the people of the territory. Your government intends to place some emphasis on tourism infrastructure development, and one area of focus will be the Kingarden Bay Revitalization Project, along with the Caribbean Cultural Project. We will also rehabilitate visitor center across the territory and enhance the tourism product at the Copper Mine Point ruins on Virgin Gorda. Our ferry terminals and jetties that are used by residents and visitors to visit and commute between our sister islands needs to be restored and upgraded. We will continue work on the West End Ferry Terminal to develop a modern, technologically driven entry port facility to accommodate over 200,000 passengers per year, and to provide an entry port that is resilient and which follows international safety and smart standards while providing opportunities for the people of the territory. Work will be done at the Anegada Setting Point Jetty to develop a facility that is in keeping with international port standards and will facilitate the needs of tourists and residents. This project will enhance the opportunities for residents of Anegada. The redevelopment of the dog hold facilities and dock at Jocelyn Dyke will also provide a secure and comfortable environment for residents and visitors to the island. To support our marine sector and create an enabling environment for growth, we will move forward with the Eastern Fat Hogs Bay Harbor project to develop various facilities and amenities in that area. Additionally, to support the marine sector as a renowned top sailing destination and a stable jurisdiction, we'll continue to work towards maintaining our Category 1 status. COVID-19 would have created significant unexpected delays in our preparation process, yet the team is still working furiously despite the odds, in the event that the United Kingdom still moves forward with its scheduled evaluation of this status. We remain optimistic that the BVI will maintain its Category 1 status and can register ships of unlimited tonnage and size, thereby enabling ship owners to take advantage of the benefits available to the BVI registered ships as we grow the membership of our shipping register, boost and expand the industry, offer more to customers in this market, and increase not only our competitive advantage worldwide in this sector, but our revenues. We will also seek to undertake the dredging of the Seacoast Bay Harbor to facilitate moorings for ferries and yachts. This is necessary to enhance the safety of the public and associated property by providing a safe mooring for boats during weather events. Mr. Speaker, the BVI's airport infrastructure is a critical component of our economy. We have always known that the Terence B. Lettsome International Airport was a primary gateway for visitors and tourists to the British Virgin Islands. But it may have taken the COVID-19 pandemic for us to fully appreciate the impact that our main airport has on the economic resiliency of our nation. And that is why I'm compelled to make these special comments. Not only about the recovery of the airport and its reopening, but its future role in the resiliency of our economy, far beyond that which is played prior to COVID-19. Honorable members, I am talking about the Capital Improvement Program, which is known as the CIP, that will permit tourists and investors to fly non-stop to the BVI, not just from San Juan, but from anywhere in North America or in Western Europe, such as New York, Toronto, and London, just to name a few cities. This program must be our top priority for the territory, and your government aims to ensure this. More specifically, the British Virgin Islands Airports Authority is currently working on a business plan for what is expected to be a $158 million CIP that will include runway, taxiway, aircraft parking, terminal, car park, and roadway improvements. After the plan of finance is put in place, design of the projects is expected to commence by October next year. The completion of the improvements is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2025. The CIP will require financial support from the central government, but the preliminary economic impact study shows that our investment in the Terence B. Letsom International Airport CIP would quickly pay off. The estimated number of jobs created by the airport directly and indirectly across the Virgin Islands is expected to multiply five-fold from approximately 2,700 in 2019 to over 14,000 jobs in 2030. Correspondingly, as a result of the new airport improvements, the BVI tax revenues driven by the airport's existence is forecast to rise from an estimated $12.6 million in 2019 to $61.7 million by 2030. Looking to the future, because of these airports improvements and increased traffic, the British Virgin Islands Airports Authority is forecast to be operating at a surplus by 2028, no longer having to be subsidized by the central government as it has been over the many years. But first, we must make the investment in the Capital Improvement Program. It is important to point out that even without the new airport improvements, the loss of passenger and air cargo traffic due to COVID-19 pandemic will require your government to infuse about $5 million a year in the airport authority's operating budget beginning next year. And this does not include further government assistance for capital expenditures in technology and service innovations that must be made even as we await the opening of the new airport in 2026. Those technology upgrades will aid airlines in their check-in processes, and service enhancements will include a new VIP club that will be available to airport patrons seeking a more personal and upscale level of service. The above $5 million annual infusion to the airport authority's operating budget also does not include our commitment to Virgin Gorda to pave the runway there, followed by a short extension. Both projects are designed to improve the safety of the existing sand and gravel runway. Conversely, the BVI Airports Authority is laying the groundwork to boost future revenues. Among such initiatives is their issuance of the two requests for proposal, one for the development of a new world-class fixed-base operation to handle the many private and business jets that fly into Terence B. Letsom, and another for the development and operation of a commercial aircraft fueling operation for that airport. Both are anticipated to be operational by the end of 2021. I'll be coming before this Honorable House over the next several months to share the business plan for the Terence B. Letsom International Airport's Capital Improvement Program and to secure member support for what we anticipate will be the single most transformational undertaking to the resiliency of the Virgin Islands economy since the Beef Island Airport was inaugurated in 1969. This new airport undertaking assures us that the best is yet to come for the people of the Virgin Islands, and by extension, our tourism product. We are also making efforts aimed to redeveloping civil aviation regulatory services by re-establishing an office presence in the BVI by 2021. This means implementing an industry surveillance program by introducing the inspection of all aircraft and helicopters at airports. Mr. Speaker, even as the cruise industry is restructuring and preparing to re-emerge from the impact of COVID-19, the British Virgin Islands Ports Authority is also working to adapt to the most important evolution in that industry: the emergence of larger, mega-sized cruise ships. They include the Oasis of the Seas, a $1.4 billion luxury ship by Royal Caribbean that accommodates 6,300 passengers, and the 6,500 passenger Excellence Class XL by Carnival Cruise Lines that was launched in 2020, and which was expected to cost $950 billion. The British Virgin Islands Ports Authority currently operates a single cruise pier at the Tortola Cruise Port. It is not capable of accommodating these larger, mega-sized cruise ships. Understandably, therefore, for the BVI to remain competitive and build resiliency in the Caribbean cruise sector, the development of a new pier must be a top priority. Therefore, the BVI Ports Authority is working diligently in the review of options to develop and operate a new megaship pier at the Tortola Cruise Port and other ancillary food, beverage, and retail facilities at the Cyril B. Romney Pier Park. In early October 2020, the BVI Ports Authority engaged the services of top cruise industry experts, Bormello, Ajamil, and partners to assist the BVI Ports Authority in this endeavor. In anticipation of both the potential for future cruise passenger origination at the BVI and the increased demand for hotel accommodation due to the airport improvements that will permit non-stop jet service to the Virgin Islands from North America and Western Europe, the BVI Ports Authority issued an expression of interest for the development of a new luxury hotel and conference center on a 27,281.12 square foot waterfront parcel in the Pier Park. 2 companies were shortlisted to submit proposal to a subsequent request for proposal that was issued. They include GPH and Meridian, a local Virgin Islands company. Upon request by one of the 2 proponents, and in consideration of COVID-19-induced lending challenges, the deadline for response to the RFP was extended from October 2nd, 2020 to January 29, 2021. As the BVI Ports Authority seeks to continue to improve its facilities and its service offerings, it will focus on the expansion and reorganization of its cargo port systems. This sound yet ambitious plan will see the acquisition of new land and the development of the front entrance security building at Port Purcell. In 2021, we will see the erection of the General Cargo Warehouse, which is past its design stage. Once the requisite approvals are attained, the construction will commence in the early part of 2021. There is excitement as planning has begun for the construction of a new BVI Ports Authority administration facility. This 5-story complex will house the administrative staff and other government statutory bodies at a price that will be a significant cost savings to central government. To date, structural drawings have been completed. The authority is also making preparation to improve its ferry terminals to better serve residents and visitors alike. The Jos Van Dyke Ferry Terminal will be operational and ready to service both domestic and international passengers by the end of 2020. we anticipate that the construction of the Western Ferry Terminal will begin in the course of 2021. Furthermore, the BVI Ports Authority recently purchased land in Virgin Gorda to allow for the separation of the cargo and ferry operations. This separation of responsibilities will vastly improve the efficiency of port operations. The Ports Authority continues to work diligently to ensure the security of the ports as a place of doing business for both employees and customers. The BVI Ports Authority is near completion with installing International Ship and Port Facility Security Code ISPS prescribed fencing at all port locations. Proposed lighting is being installed throughout port facilities to ensure they are sufficiently illuminated. Also, security cameras are being installed throughout the ports to improve our surveillance capabilities. These projects are essential to bring the ports into compliance with ISPS code. The British Virgin Islands Ports Authority's incredible IT department has been tasked with rebuilding and improving the IT infrastructure at the authority, which was damaged during the 2017 hurricanes. The IT team has taken on the planned improvement of services such as online billing and payments, online notifications, improvement of surveillance, and the improvement of port data and operation resiliency. This is innovation. We have faith that with the proper support, 2021 will lead to significant improvements to our service offerings at our BVI ports. None of this can be done without the hard-working staff throughout our ports system. The staff at the authority is one of our most valuable resources, and thus we plan to honor our commitment to them. Mr. Speaker, I am extremely happy to report that we were able to pay out 2018 increments earlier this year. Moving forward, we are happy to announce that in December 2020, daily paid workers will have their salary restored to its original level. We will also reinstate those employees to regular working hours as the authority anticipates a significant increase in workload with the expected return of international ferry services and cruise ships in 2021. This is good news. Mr. Speaker, remote working and schooling during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has emphasized the importance of citizens having a stable, reliable supply of electricity in their homes. Of course, a reliable power supply is also important for businesses to function without interruption. The BVI Electricity Commission has re-emphasized its commitment to achieving the national vision of transforming the BVI into a more competitive regional economy. The BVI Electricity Corporation has been working diligently towards the territory's transition towards diversifying energy production utilizing renewable energy. On 4 June 2020, BVIEC awarded the Anegada Hybrid Renewable Energy and Battery Energy Storage System project to Power 52 Clean Energy Access LLC. This project, when completed during the third quarter of 2021, is projected to reduce the current volume of fossil fuel used to produce electricity on that sister island by 95%. This would surpass the government's target of reducing fossil fuel-based generation by 80% in Anegada by 2021. The system will comprise of 1 megawatt of solar PV panels and 4,078 kilowatt-hour of battery energy storage. BVIEC is similarly in the infancy of conducting feasibility assessment with respect to exploring the renewable energy potential for utility-scale solar PV generation and penetration on the national transmission grid infrastructure in Paraquita Bay, Tortola, and Virgin Gorda. In early 2021, BVIEC, along with its international and regional industry partners, intend to continue its thorough analysis to place the sole portion of the territory's transmission infrastructure underground and add other infrastructural improvements which will not only support transmission grid infrastructure resilience, but also add much needed energy resilience to essential services in the Paraquita Bay area, such as water production, sewage treatment, and the H.L. Stout Community College, just to name a few. BVIEC is also assessing the viability and feasibility of 2 proposals submitted by private developers wishing to construct polar PV farms in the Coxseat area. One of these developers is awaiting a revised green energy license to be issued by the government of the Virgin Islands in order to progress the development of their project. The completion of all these projects and more will ensure the government's target of having 30% of electricity production from renewable energy sources by 2023. Following the enactment of both the BVI Electricity Corporation Amendment Act 2015 and the BVI Electricity Corporation Renewable Energy Regulation 2018, which combined provides the territory with a legal framework to advance the subject of renewable energy. BVIEC has processed 4 consumer generator small-scale renewable energy interconnection applications to date. The BVIEC is working along with Premier's Office, Tongue and Country Planning Department and Electrical Inspection Unit to conduct an inspection on what may potentially be the first grid-tie connection in the territory at the Brigado Flax Educational Center on the island of Virgin Gorda. Should the inspection be successful, Brigado Flax Educational Center will possess a net building metering system, employing a big directional meter in accordance with the laws. In addition, BVIEC has identified and has commenced the exercise to regularize approximately 15 polar PV systems installed at various homes and commercial establishments throughout the territory, and ensuring that they are all in compliance with the laws and the systems installed employing best practices. BVIEC has partnered with the H.L. Stout Community College to commence the first cohort of a certified solar technician training program, which is slated to begin in January 2021. This training is crucial to the success of this new renewable energy industry, as it provides the local capacity to progress renewable energy within the territory and hopefully within the region. The first graduates of this program will be certified to perform all works associated with the installation of solar PV systems for residents, homes, and businesses, and will ultimately be the first entrepreneurs in this new green industry, while at the same time igniting the territory's green economy and empowering people. BVIEC is also currently in the infancy of exploring, along with the Survey Department, locations suitable for a future power station, which will utilize LPG propane. The introduction of this new facility will not only promote fuel diversity, but also ensure supply balance from the current service with a single point of supply. The above reflects that the Virgin Islands is poised to become, in the not-too-distant future, a model jurisdiction for the region as it relates to its energy transition development plans. In the 2020 budget, your government announced that incentives in the form of zero tax exemptions would be to residents for purchasing solar equipment for their properties and for the purchase of electric hybrid vehicles. These exemptions will be extended for another year to allow residents to benefit from them, given the challenges that they may have faced in accessing the facilities during the course of this past year as a result of COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, reliable water supply and proper sanitation are important for securing the health of our population. They are also very important for the territory to become competitive in tourism and other industries. The renovation to Water and Sewage Department buildings and the Public Works Department buildings at Bargos Bay will continue incorporating resilient building standards. There will be a configuration of Public Works Department and Water and Sewage Department compound to improve delivery of service by restoring, reconfiguring, and expanding the PWD and Water and Sewage Department facilities. We will also rehabilitate the facilities at Water Depot in Virgin Gorda to provide an enhanced working environment for staff and customers, and to provide increased services to the public. Water is life. And whether it is a visitor or a resident, when they open the tap, they expect a proper water supply. So your government will continue the water network improvement. A number of projects have been planned for the upcoming fiscal year to improve the resilience of the water infrastructure and the reliability of supply to users. These include development and replacement of the water network distribution system throughout the territory, repairs to identify the water reservoirs to ensure the continuous storage and availability of water for distribution, and repairs to the reservoirs at Longbush, Zion Hill, Carrot Bay, to provide adequate and continuous water supply in the surrounding areas and to provide business opportunities by increased water distribution capabilities. In the latter areas, the upgrades will incorporate installation of new water meters, which will assist the Water and Sewage Department to improve its billing and collections capabilities and thereby improve its viability. Government also intends to move forward with transforming Water and Sewage Department into a statutory body, which will enable it to perform more effectively. Mr. Speaker, your government is very aware of the public health concerns that our residents have when it comes to the state of our territory's sewage infrastructure. The National Sewage Program aims to address these issues through the development of an integrated sewage system throughout the territory and to ensure the continued treatment and disposal of residential and commercial sewage. Mr. Speaker, your government has commenced work on the long-awaited and long-overdue Eastern Long Look Sewage Project. And we have given a commitment to the residents that we will see this through. This project entails continuation of the development of an integrated sewage system spanning Eastern Long Look, which would include sewage collection, transmission, treatment, and disposal system. This is important to provide a safe and healthy environment for all stakeholders and to allow for the implementation of business opportunities. We will also be pressing forward with the King Gadambe Sewage Project and the Rotown Sewage Project. These are places where our people live and work. They are popular locations when visitors come. Therefore, they must be kept to a high standard. Funds have been allocated to procure, develop, and assemble a new incinerator on Tortola to include all MEP works so that we can enhance the disposal of garbage in a manner that protects the environment and surrounding communities. Mr. Speaker, roads and effective drainage are among the basic expectations citizens have from their government. Good roads reduce the wear and tear on vehicles and save citizens money. Good roads are also safer. Well-constructed and properly maintained drains and watercourses mitigate against flooding, which can cause inconvenience and loss or damage to property. Your government has been working hard to upgrade these infrastructures since taking office and will continue to do so. Through the territory-wide gut rehabilitation and development program, guts throughout the territory will be cleared of debris so they can function effectively. A number of major road repair projects have also been slated for execution. These include repairs to Nail Bay Road, Johnson Gut Road, Long Bay Road, and King Gadambe Road, which will undergo major reconstruction. A number of retaining structures will also be installed in various locations to improve safety of the road infrastructure. Some of the areas where road stabilization and retaining walls will be constructed include Great Mountain, Long Trench, Hope Hill, Little Dix Hill, and Fort Hill. Your government will also ensure that sea defense project for the northern side of Tortola commences in 2021. These include areas such as Carib Bay, Little Apple Bay, just to name a few. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to law enforcement and border protection. Mr. Speaker, we do not condone wrongdoing and breaking of the laws of our peaceful territory. There are persons who are advancing their causes and not the causes of the people of the Virgin Islands. We have to continue to shift our thinking from the mindset that persons from outside have to come to the Virgin Islands to save us. We already have the Savior in us, and we cannot take this freedom for granted. This is why your government took the decisive decision to be proactive in the protecting of our borders during the course of the pandemic, maximizing the use of the resources that we have locally. A major initiative for enhancing the BVIC border protection against illegal entry of persons and smuggling of drugs will be the procurement and installation of our own border surveillance system and platform and other needed equipment. Work on achieving this was already started. Additionally, we have procured sea vessels and other resources for our border protection agencies. Allocations have been made to provide the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, Her Majesty's Customs, and Immigration Department with the tools they need to perform in managing crime in our territory. Mr. Speaker, I pause here to thank the men and women of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, Her Majesty's Customs, and the Immigration Department for providing and proving that our local law enforcement systems work. I thank them all for proving that our local enforcement officers, once given the opportunity, always rise to the occasion. Mr. Speaker, sir, I know that this is not conventional in this honorable House. But as you know, we are not an conventional government. And we're not operating in a conventional manner in this new regular. I therefore, Mr. Speaker, crave your indulgence. And I ask everyone to join me in giving our local law enforcement officers a resounding round of applause. Mr. Speaker, given the latest announcement of the biggest drug seizure in the history of the Virgin Islands, the overseas territories, and the United Kingdom, it is important to note that what was lost from the message is our local enforcement's capability of handling crime of this significant nature and size. Their actions show that we have zero tolerance for any form of crime. And I thank our local law enforcement agencies for demonstrating to the world that this is so in this country, the Virgin Islands, and for demonstrating that our systems work and adds value and protection to the global economy and its fight against illegal activities. It is important to note, Mr. Speaker, that there will always be negative elements in each law enforcement agency in the world and even in communities. But let us not lose sight that a huge majority of our law enforcement agencies and our community are people of high integrity. The latest bust does not show that our system is corrupt, but rather it shows that our system and our officers stand up for what is right. So I'm calling those with hidden agendas who are in covert ways trying many different strategies and using vulnerable opportunities to prevent the Virgin Islands from truly achieving the mandate given by the United Nations in Article 73 of the United Nations Charter for former colonies to become self-governing, to go and erase the irresponsible labeling of the BVI system and our people as corrupt. This irresponsible statement must be retracted, as it is a well-calculated attempt to try to stain the good name of the many hard-working, law-abiding citizens, the local law enforcement agencies, and this BVI love economy. The irresponsible statement made will not deter your government from investing in the advancement of our people in all aspects of local law enforcement. So once again, I'm calling on all those who have called the Virgin Islands corrupt to take it out of the atmosphere and share the real truth with the local media, the international media, the United Kingdom media, and even the Twitter media. What is the real truth? The truth is that all people working together have shown that they will leave no stone unturned, and that there are no sacred cows when it comes to deterring criminal activities. What should have been the center of focus of any announcement is our local law enforcement's capability to make such a historic revelation, proving that our system in the Virgin Islands is effective when put to the test. This turn of events is another testament that we can police ourselves. Indeed, we are on our way to self-determination. As the leader of the Virgin Islands and the government of the Virgin Islands, I'm not proud, definitely not proud of the latest crime reports, including the shooting, of which my government and I denounce. And I say condolences to all those who have been affected in some way or another by what has happened. We have indeed placed an unforgettable footprint in this world, and we will continue to join with the rest of the world in fighting all crime. Mr. Speaker, allow me to speak about some economic opportunities for our people. As our traditional sources of revenue are being challenged by the pandemic and other factors, we must look to innovation in our key sectors and to non-traditional sources of revenue and leadership. The Virgin Islands is no stranger to extreme climate events, and we have no option but to confront climate change. The reality is that the social and economic viability of these islands, and indeed of countries throughout the world, will depend on low-carbon, climate-resilient development. The increasing global reallocation of capital, research, and other resources into the transition to a net-zero carbon economy is creating unprecedented opportunities to position the territory as a climate change innovation and finance center of excellence, and we must harness them. We anticipate that our small business owners will soon be able to take advantage of the provisions of the Micro Business Companies Act 2017, which offers simple, affordable, transparent, digital, and future-ready limited liability protection for businesses that employ less than 10 people and whose annual turnover or gross asset value is less than $2 million. Your government has already embarked on initiatives to encourage the growth of small businesses and to assist our farmers and fisher folk. To facilitate improved food security and economic empowerment for fisher folk, we will perform rehabilitative works to the various fishing docks throughout the territory so that fishermen can safely dock to sell their catch. We have passed the legislation for establishing and regulating a local gaming and betting industry, which will create economic opportunities for our people and create much-needed jobs. We will be pressing forward to establish this industry which is in high demand according to our international tourism partners. We are encouraged to examine the prospects for online gaming, as this is an area that attracts interest for upscale hoteliers. Additionally, legislation for establishing a medical marijuana industry in the BVI has been passed by this honorable House. Medical marijuana is a blooming industry worldwide and here too in the Caribbean. It has the potential to earn the territory millions of dollars in revenue and create jobs for our people. We hope that there will be no more unnecessary and unsubstantiated delays in getting the BVI's medical marijuana industry established so that our people can start benefiting from this new initiative. Most of the infrastructural projects in this budget will be done utilizing local contractor and locally available labor force. This is as a result of a number of innovations that your government has introduced to support the local construction sector. We have designed these projects and our procurement processes to be adaptive to local capabilities. Mr. Speaker, in its April 2020 report, the Commission on State Fragility, Growth and Development, chaired by former British Prime Minister David Cameron, emphasizes that the solution for states moving from a condition of weakness and fragility to one of being strong are largely domestic and homegrown. International players and donors, as well as domestic actors, need to change the way development is approached, since international perspectives are often disconnected from what obtains and what is needed on the ground. There must be an emphasis on greater national respect and responsibility. But this will only work, according to the Cameron Committee, if citizens in development countries are allowed to set out their own national priorities about where they are going as a country and who they want to be. The committee says, and I quote, "Owning those priorities, learning from mistakes, combating corruption, and demonstrating accountability are all crucial," end of quote. This is why your government has been so passionate about the development of our people and ensuring that once they meet the required qualifications for jobs, especially those that are at the leadership level in our institutions, where they can influence how the culture of the Virgin Islands becomes preserved and not watered down, Virgin Islanders must be enabled and encouraged to develop and manage their country. Whether we move to independence or some different relationship with the United Kingdom in the future, that journey and the work to get to that point must be continuous. And when big steps are taken, it will be done with the support and consent of all our people. And it will be done in a way that no one is left behind. Your government will continue to do its part to ensure that we put opportunities of empowerment in place to ready our people. And the United Kingdom must respect and honor the mandate given to them under Article 73 of the United Nations Charter, as cemented in the Virgin Islands Constitutional Order 2007, to do their part to earnestly help the BVI to meet the target without delay. That is why the Department of Disaster Management in the 2021 budget is appropriately placed back under the Premier's office, formerly the Chief Minister's office. The realignment will help us through the modern partnership to meet the target of the United Nations in managing our own internal affairs. This also holds true for archives and management unit, as the information for any country belongs to that country and its people. Mr. Speaker, the academic development of our people is essential if we are to progress as a society and assume control of our destiny. Some of our schools have been in need of repairs for a long time, and the situation has been made more urgent following the passage of Hurricane Irma. Our children deserve a safe and modern learning environment that will be conducive to their development. Your government is prioritizing the needs of our children as we allocate funding for the construction and development of the Jocelyn Dyke Primary School and the Isabella Morris Primary School with assistance from donors. Rehabilitation and reconstruction work will also be performed at the Brigada Flax Educational Center, restoring the functionality of that secondary school and providing access to public education on Virgin Gorda. Your government will undertake development of a modern center for the performing arts theater to assist with developing, preserving, and promoting BVI's heritage of dance, music, and all other forms of artistic expression, while fostering the growth of cultural tourism. Also, to provide cultural benefits to the people of the Virgin Islands, we will rehabilitate our cultural and historical sites to include all amenities necessary to ensure full operation of the facilities. In order to facilitate a healthy community life and community spirit, sports and recreational facilities will be given even more special attention. Your government continues to effect rehabilitative works to the basketball courts throughout the territory. Through the territorial basketball courts, we will be able to provide a safe and resilient recreational facility for the benefit of all the people of the territory. Rehabilitative work will be undertaken at the sporting facility through the territory, as well as the multi-purpose complex and the Virgin Gorda Sports Complex. The goal is to enhance recreational facilities for the people of the territory and enhancing opportunities for further representation of the Virgin Islands on the world stage. Similarly, improvements will be undertaken to restore recreational facilities throughout the territory to meet the physical and social recreation needs of the various communities. We will undertake repairs and remedial works at the Kingarden Bay Community Center and the East End Longlook Community Center to provide an enhanced environment for the members of those communities. Mr. Speaker, the starting point for a stable, secure, and dignified life is the home. Despite our efforts over the last 20 months, there are still families who are displaced by the havoc from Hurricane Irma. Your government will continue our efforts to assist these persons with their housing needs so that they can begin to truly recover from that natural disaster. The recent implementation of a 7% fee on outgoing remittances will help to generate funds to support these objectives by providing resources for developing government land that can be distributed to first-time homeowners. Mr. Speaker, since your government announced that we will commence a constitutional review, which is long overdue, there has been much debate and discussion among citizens. This is healthy for our democracy. One thing that is clear is that we need to find ways to strike a better balance in the partnership that exists between the BVI and the UK, especially with self-determination being our long-term goal. In 2021, provisions are made in the budget to allow us to take steps to advance constitutional review process, inclusive of extensive consultation with the public. Mr. Speaker, the House of Assembly continues to be a symbol of our young democracy. To this end, your government will continue to fund many of the important new initiatives at the House of Assembly, because this is important to the development of our governance capabilities, which is essential for us to achieve self-determination. In order for us to comply with the COVID-19 protocols, we will immediately conduct some upgrade work on the House of Assembly chambers in the Road Town so it can be fit for purpose. Our former legislators who have toiled and labored in the vineyard for this country must be treated correctly. Your government will continue to make contributions to medical bills and other related areas to ensure that our former legislators, include former speakers, are treated with dignity and respect. Your government believes in being fair and treating the opposition how we wish to be treated. This is why during the COVID-19 pandemic, we ensure that all of the elected members from both sides of the House were each allocated $300,000 to help the people of the Virgin Islands. My administration will continue to reflect our bipartisan approach to governance and treat both sides of these aisles with fairness and act with transparency in extending whatever financial and other courtesies where necessary, as I know that it was the people who sent all 13 elected members to this honorable House. To promote accountability and value for money when it comes to the managing of the public affairs, your government will continue to move forward with project management, development, and support for all Caribbean Development Bank RRL projects. The objective is to provide project management support and capacity building within the local government of the Virgin Islands structure. In this vein, we also want to obtain auditing services to assess the expenditure issued under the CDB RRL. This means strengthening our financial audit services to ensure best practices are followed during the loan implementation. Mr. Speaker, allow me to speak further just for a moment on more of the budget numbers. If we are to look at the 2021 budget by numbers, the technical experts at the Ministry of Finance are projecting estimated revenues for your government in the sum of $332.3 million, with $309.9 million coming from taxes and $20.4 million from other revenue sources. Your government is well aware that COVID-19 has created a lot of uncertainty about how global tourism will perform in the upcoming year. We know that many of our local tourism stakeholders are also trying to imagine how tourism will work under the new regular in 2021. Your government has ensured that adequate measures will be implemented to address this concern. Owing to our meticulous protocols for mitigating the spread of COVID-19 to our residents, tourism workers, and guests, I'm confident that our tourism industry will not disappoint us, and we will see a positive influence from this trickling into other areas of our economic activity. Your government is developing the terms and conditions for our BVI in-stay program, which will allow persons to come to the BVI and stay for an extended period. The main target group are persons who are able to do remote working for jobs in their home countries. So these individuals will not be competing in the local job market, but at the same time, they would be renting accommodations, patronizing our businesses, enjoying what BVI tourist experience has to offer, and contributing to economic activity. We are also working out the details for an invest and stay program to attract persons who would like to invest in specific areas of our economy. They will be allowed to live in the BVI, but they will not be afforded the benefits that go with belongership. However, they will be mandated to employ an agreed number of persons in the BVI based on the size of their investment. I'm also confident in the ability of our business community to recognize how they must adapt their marketing strategy for the COVID-19 era and to quickly reorient their strategies. We are also confident that our financial services industry will hold some ground. The BVI has been advocating that publicly accessible registers without proper controls can violate the human rights of our clientele, and that alternative models for regulation and scrutiny are available. The decision to allow cruise ships to berth at our local ports for warm-up layup is projected to contribute to the significant part of $1 million from moorings and berthing fees, and that, Mr. Speaker, will start shortly and continue into 2021. Your government will also be harnessing the entrepreneurial, innovative spirit of our people through many training and development opportunity, where the funding for such has made part of the 2021 budget. Recurrent expenditure is estimated at $325.2 million, with employee compensation accounting for some $122.6 million, $79.4 million allocated for goods and services, $77.4 million set aside for grants to parastatals, statutory bodies and other organizations and international bodies based on existing comments, and $18.6 million allocated for social benefits. Mr. Speaker, in order to ensure that the BVI Tourist Board can play its leading role in the marketing of the territory as we reopen our industry, some $9.6 million will be provided to the Tourist Board by way of grants. Honorable members would recall that an aggressive program of activities was approved in the 2020 budget for improving the competitiveness of the local airports and securing our international certification. This included procurement of new fire appliances, upgrades to the runway at Virgin Gorda, and upgrades to the Terence B. Lettsome International Airport at Beef Island. The improvements also included installation of new equipment to enhance efficiency and passenger experience in check-in. These works are, for the most part, slated to be completed in time for the 1st December 2020, reopening of our air borders for international visitors. But more importantly, these investments are supposed to increase the financial efficiency of the BVI Airports Authority. Grant allocations to the BVI Airports Authority
have thus been significantly reduced in the upcoming year to $1.2 million. Grants to the International Tax Authority have been increased to $3.2 million to provide for capacity building. Human capital development is important for the territory. We must equip our people for success. We must prepare them for their future roles. To support this goal, $9.02 million will be provided to the A.H.L. Stowe Community College. It should be noted that a provision of approximately $3 million has also been made for foreign scholarships, which will be abroad, and $62,000 has been set aside for domestic scholarships for our people. We have also allocated $1 million in grant funding to the BVI Health Services Authority. Mr. Speaker, a recurrent surplus of approximately $5.2 million has been projected. Capital expenditure of $62.53 million is being targeted. This will be funded by $21.1 million in loan funds from the Caribbean Development and RRL, and $35.4 million from the Consolidated Fund, as well as insurance proceeds among other sources of funding. $12.5 million has been allocated for debt servicing. An overall deficit of $69.8 million is projected largely from allocations for capital projects, but this will be funded through a $34.7 million drawing from the Consolidated Fund capital expenses, $8 million in funds from the BVI Social Security Grant, $13 million from the Development Fund, and loan disbursement of approximately $14 million. The Ministry of Natural Resources, Labor and Immigration will receive the largest share of the recurrent allocation, 15.04%. This is due to the reassignment of the National Health Insurance Scheme to this ministry as part of our streamlining of systems. The reassignment was done to allow the Ministry of Health and Social Development to increase its focus on healthcare and public health during this COVID-19 era. The allocation to the Ministry of Health and Social Development is 8.83% of the recurrent budget. The Ministry of Natural Resources, Labor and Immigration, and the Ministry of Health and Social Development have been allocated 8.11% and 4.62% of the development budget, respectively. With our heightening emphasis on human capital development, 13.8% of the recurrent budget has been allocated to the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth Affairs, Fisheries, and Agriculture, and 9.75% of the development allocations. The Ministry of Transportation, Works, and Utilities has been allocated 12.92% of the recurrent budget. As I have indicated, major construction projects are an area of focus for us to stimulate economic activity and create jobs for people during this COVID-19 era. For this reason, 40.3% of the development budget has been allocated to the Ministry of Transportation, Works, and Utilities. The allocation to the Ministry of Finance and the Premier's Office are 8.71% and 10% respectively from the recurrent budget, and 5.02% and 10.02% respectively from the development allocation. Some 11.42% of the recurrent budget has been allocated to the Governor's Group, with several major projects on the card, such as the Halls of Justice and upgrades to some of our police stations. The Governor's Group has been allocated 14.73% of the development budget. It should be noted that 36.29% of recurrent allocations will be for compensation of public officers, 23.52% will be for goods and services, and 5.52% for social benefits. To recap, Mr. Speaker, the total budget this year is $402,132,046. This will comprise of $325,220,829 for recurrent expenditure, and $62,526,065 for capital expenditure, $1,889,752 in contribution to various statutory funds, and $12,495,400 towards repayment of the principal on our debt. In 2021, we estimate development expenditure to be $62,526,100. The amount comprises of $10,183,500 in capital acquisition, and $52,342 $52,342,600 in infrastructure development across the territory. Central government will be responsible for 59% or $30,905,200 for the infrastructure development, while the Recovery and Development Agency will handle 41% or $21,437,400. Mr. Speaker, in concluding, I once again reflect on a quote by Albert Einstein, who said, and I quote, "Everything has changed. A new type of thinking is essential if mankind is to survive and move toward higher levels," end of quote. Mr. Speaker, with COVID-19, everything has changed. And we have to rethink and reinvent creative ways of doing things, of engaging in economic activity. We have to critically reassess business models that have worked successfully for decades before the emergence of COVID-19, but which metrics are incompatible with the present-day realities. It is said that necessity is the mother of invention, and we are a creative people whose foreparents taught us how to be resourceful and how to survive. So we will do what we have done every time we are challenged. We will innovate, and we will re-emerge stronger. Mr. Speaker, it was necessary for me to give this comprehensive report of our stewardship and our plans for the future of this territory as we present the 2021 budget estimates. 3 budgets in 20 months is an inordinate task. And I would like to thank the Financial Secretary, Mr. Glenroy Forbes, and his team for ensuring that the economy remains stable and well managed, and that economic activities and the framework for building new industries remain buoyant. While Mr. Forbes' contract comes to an end to the end of the year, Deputy Financial Secretary Mr. Jeremiah Frett was the only applicant for the advertised and extension of the advertised post of Financial Secretary, and by such time the post also was re-advertised, and at such time the position should be filled subject to the PSC's approval and then the Governor's approval in consultation with the Premier and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, this will ensure the stability in the Ministry of Finance, and it clearly demonstrates succession planning. This is innovation. Over the next few months, our government will be bringing succession plans for all statutory bodies and all ministries, including those under the Governor's group. This, too, is innovation. I also wish to thank my ministerial colleagues for the long hours that they continue to put in to ensure that we deliver the mandate with which the people have entrusted us. I express my thanks to all my colleagues and my gratitude to the members of Her Majesty's loyal opposition for the role they continue to play in keeping the government honest, democratic, and always on its toes. It is through scrutiny and feedback that we can engage in continuous improvement. I must also thank all our hard-working public servants across all the ministries, state enterprises, and other government agencies for the patriotism and commitment they have displayed in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic. A special thanks goes to the team at the Premier's office who go above and beyond to ensure the job gets done. Mr. Speaker, I also must thank my wife and my family for being able to be there for me, especially with the many hours put in as being Premier and also Minister of Finance and 4th District Representative, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, last but not least, Mr. Speaker, but the greatest of all, we thank God. Most times, they are unseen in terms of some of our public officers as they operate the system that keeps the public service functioning and delivering services to the public. And over the past few months, a large number of them have been working from home, ensuring that the people of this territory are taken care of while at the same time tending to their needs of their own families. This is true BVR love. This is a true public service par excellence. Mr. Speaker, special thanks must also go out to the people of the British Virgin Islands for their patience, understanding and support during this pandemic. Your government is mindful of how difficult these present times are. We are aware of the frustration many persons are facing, as the very necessary precautionary measures may make it difficult to work and to do business in the way we are accustomed. But Virgin Islanders are people with a strong community spirit who look out for each other, especially the elderly and the vulnerable. And therefore, in the end, we cherish the safety and well-being of each other. We are in this together, and together we will overcome the challenges that we face. We have already come a long way in weathering this pandemic, but working together and through patience, understanding, and cooperation. As we prepare for the managed reopening of our tourism industry, let us put our best foot forward. The BVI love that resides in us is one of our strongest assets. It is the source of our indomitable spirit and our warm and charming personality as Virgin Islanders. So we must approach everything we do with BVI love. I look forward to the coming weeks, where honorable members will debate the provisions of the 2021 budget and add value to this journey of inclusion through innovation, building a stable, diverse, competitive economy with strong industries and partnerships for regional and international trade, and building and harnessing the creative capacity of our human capital. Mr. Speaker, I thank God Almighty Jehovah for covering us during this ongoing COVID-19 era and for protecting us from any hurricanes. While we have had our financial challenges as well as some social challenges, we still have a lot to thank God for, because we have fared better than most other countries. And through continued prayer, we will make our tomorrows better than our yesterdays as we continue to move forward always in BVI love. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Take his mic back. Take his mic back.
I second the motion.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the second and third, it has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Appropriation Act 2021, Act 2020, be now read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is carried. I call upon the clerk to read the bill for a second time.
This act may be cited as the Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 and shall be deemed to have come into be deemed to come into force on the first day of January 2021.
Thank you. Honourable members, at this time we'll take a 15-minute recess so our distinguished invited guests can leave in an orderly fashion, and we will resume in 15 minutes. Member for the 3rd District. The break has not commenced yet, senior member. This House is now in recess. Please be seated. This Honorable House now resumes its sitting. I call upon the Premier and Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move a motion that the debate on the merits and principles of the bill entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 be deferred until a later date. Mr. Speaker, I move that the debate on the merits and principles of the bill entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 be deferred until a later date.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the debate on the merits and principles of the bill entitled Appropriation 2021 Act 2020 be deferred until a later date. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. I call upon the Premier and Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion that be it resolved that the annual estimates for the year 2021 be referred to the Standing Finance Committee in accordance with Standing Order 67.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Thank you, honorable members. The motion has been moved and seconded that the annual estimate for the year 2021 be referred to the Standing Finance Committee in accordance with Standing Order 67. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Therefore, we will resume on Monday, the 16th of November 2020 at 10 a.m. In this building, where we will go to Standing Finance Committee. All members should have had their papers, including the budget, heads of departments and other statutory bodies also. How we're going to do it is that they will wait downstairs in the lobby at Save the Seed Energy Center, and then we'll bring them up so we can maintain the privacy and decorum of each member in the House asking questions to departments. With that said, we're now on recess until Monday, November 16th, 2020. House is in recess.